There was that perfect moisture content to keep the track fast, but still, like I said, it slickened up on the bottom a little bit, slicked over on the bottom just a little bit, but had all that traction in it. Middle groove was probably just about where every driver would dream of having track prep across, top to bottom. And then the top, there was that moisture up there that if a guy needed to use the pass and had enough horsepower to do it, he could do it.
Well, I was kind of worried right after they put the water down and before they, as they started the track pack.
Mm-hmm.
Mike was out there in his own vehicle.
Yeah, in the Suburban.
And every time he would come around in that wonderful push pace car they got,
mm-hmm.
He's got those 29-inch tires on the back, the big wide ones, and he's coming around and they're throwing mud everywhere. And I'm going, that don't look good. But they kept going around, and man, it looked nice. After all the cars got out there and packed that down, it was, oh God. You see that, I call it the black gray.
Yeah.
Black gray,
right.
It'll change, and you can read that track and look at it, and, you see that black gray, that's a good spot to be. Yeah. You don't want the light gray.
Right.
But you want that kind of the black gray, and you don't want the real black at the bottom or at the top.
Going back to the highlight of that night, I would have to say it was McCann in the Suburban getting it sideways for all the soccer moms out there. That was great. I want to know how many people actually tried that afterwards.
I'll tell you now, as we progress through this show tonight, talking about highlights and what happened during the weekend, I will tell you right now, one of the things that I thought was a highlight for the racing program itself was during the late model feature. I think we were 2-3 laps in, and Brody Montgomery in the 3-car was that car's fast. That another, like I'm talking about, these young drivers that aren't getting, recognized. I think from our region that should be. He's another one of those guys that we're going to keep our eye on. He's a very talented young driver. He got spun, and they sent him to the back. He didn't like that because he went back to 12th. And did you watch what happened when the green flag dropped? He went from 12th to 3rd. I think it was 3 laps. I mean, he was
humming
on rails. That 3-car was, I think, had that caution not come out and then went green to checkered, that was probably the car that would have won. But those 3 laps, he had to drive that car. And he drove hard. And I'm sure he did a little something to that right rear tire to take, that cost him a little bit of a forward bite in the late stages. To pass that many cars that fast and let the 77 car had a wide open track to work with. So he got out a little bit, and he had that track figured out. When the caution came late in the race, or about a little after halfway point, I think that the 3-car, had he been in the position where the 77 was, probably would
catch.
Yeah, or probably would have held him off. It's hard to say because both those guys were just awesome. I mean, they were fast. They were fast. Trent Elliott was right there in second. My voice is tore up still. I can't stop. I'm trying to drink as much water as I can, but Trent Elliott was there in the mix. I just think that, like we talked about, that corner entry, so that little bit of entry is what cost him a legit chance to challenge Luckman there in the end. They were all working incredible lap times. 12 late models drew the most late models in the state at Southern Oregon Saturday night.
I didn't see anybody else had.
There were a couple tracks that had some, but yeah,
one had 8. So I don't know.
Well, and we're getting feedback from drivers that are coming up from California. We're getting drivers that are here in the state saying, we're gonna
go try out Southern Oregon.
Yeah, and I think that they are in a position. I'm so sorry, guys. They are in a position where they're at now in the era of that track, with who's running it and the location. I think that's going to be the center point for
California, Oregon shootout.
Late model racing. I think that's where it's going to get jump started. It's going to come off life support, and Southern Oregon Speedway is going to be the track that.
Well, you know those guys from California now, they're going to bring their A game.
Oh, they're coming.
Guarantee you.
They've already told us they're coming, and when those guys show up, well.
And we got some guys up north that's going to bring their A game. You know, and when you get all the A game players in there, guess what?
That's when you find out who's who.
You got an exceptional game going on.
Yep. I'm excited to see what happens and how this all plays out, because right now, you guys have heard me say this 100 times over the winter. The state of racing in our region right now is, for the most part, not good. It's not. You've got track owners or promoters, whatever you want to call them, that don't work with each other to promote the sport, to encourage the sport. Everybody's stepping on everybody for car count. I get it. You've got to have cars. But do you want an 8-car field? Do you think that's going to put butts in your seats? I'll tell you right now, it won't.
How about a 20-car field?
You'll pack the house.
Yep. About 35.
40. I would love to see 40 cars on Southern Oregon Speedway at one time.
Well, and I think that given where late models are right now, given what Mike McCann is doing, okay, and I know it's a long ways. It's a long ways. That's the part right there that, unless you're local, it's a long ways for everybody. Whether you're coming from Bend or Coos Bay, California, Portland, the Willamette Valley, it's a long tow for everybody. But the guys that are doing it are getting better fields to race with.
But see, here's the point. They're all coming. What they need to ask themselves is, and knowing the purses we got coming, is it worth it? And you know what my answer is? Heck yeah.
Without a doubt.
You know?
This is going to be the center of speed for that division when you're talking about the West Coast. It's got a central location. Mike's putting up the purse, making it worth their trip. You're guaranteed, if you tow over 100 miles, $200 to start. Take the green flag, blow your motor on the first lap, cut a tire, whatever. You're still going to walk out with at least $200. Now, show me one more track that's doing that. Show me one more track that's paying $200 just to start. And that's coming from 100 miles away. Okay? That's a long ways to tow. I get it. Some guys are towing 300. But they're showing up. And that's what it's going to take to build that class back up. It's the best division. And this is my personal opinion. Everybody knows how I feel about late models. It's the best division of race cars. Next to street stocks. Street stock cars, you're taking, guys, you guys, I've always been real about it.
We seen that last week.
I want to know what you guys think about what you saw with the late models at Saturday night.
I enjoyed them. I mean, I like the late models. Mm-hmm. Ever since my little buddy moved up into late models, I was a fan of his. Mm-hmm. And I like the late models anyway, because you want to go. You like the big cars, you like the fast cars, you like the horsepower, and personally, I like the sound of them. I like that deep guttural roar that you can feel in your body when they go by. And my poor drone is out there fighting for its life, trying to, if I'm up over the top,
trying to stay in the air without tumbling.
And I'm going, oh boy, but no, they're fast, they're good. They're turning right to go left, and I love it. And the mods too. I love to watch that rear end. I call it humping, when it loads up under that left, and that left front corner of the rear moves up under the quarter panel, and the driver's up there turning right for all his, for all he's worth, and the back end's hanging out.
Well, and that's how you have to drive.
Well, it's the only way you can drive it. You're not going to turn it.
Southern Oregon is a track that it's where
Where else can you go sideways down the front straightaway?
Well, here's what I'm saying is Southern Oregon.
That's what I'm talking about. Going down the straightaway, and you're hung out all the way down the straightaway.
Right. Southern Oregon isn't a track that I would say is finesse. It's not a momentum finesse type racetrack.
It's a driver's racetrack.
You're damn right. You better be a driver. You better have a set, and you better have a heavy right foot, because this is a track that you have to attack. I mean, you have to get after it and say, there's no holds barred here. It's race hard, race clean, but you better race hard.
Well, watching the 77, where I'm at up on top of the tower. That's what I'm saying.
Even as the leader.
Yeah.
Even as the leader with a significant lead.
He's coming out of the turn sideways.
And he ran like he knew, don't give up a little, because it's going to cost you everything. And that's what's entertaining about this track, Southern Oregon Speedway. You better get out there and manhandle that. You better be a driver.
Well, you come into the turn and you set the rear, you bring the rear end around, and you turn right a little bit. And you go right, 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 little left, right, right, little left, right, right,
and then
right.
launch.
And then you go, okay, straight, 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 right, right. But this one, it's like right, right, right.
Well, because
I can't go left. Hold on, right.
Because you're on it all the way. Did you watch? Okay, and what you're talking about right there, prime example. That was the sprint cars 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, wide open, full throttle, all the way around.
Insanity.
Never letting off, and they're screaming.
Insanity.
So what you're saying is that track requires more than what each and every other sport requires, which is one ball.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And you better bring a
big set.
Yeah, full size. Full size. I mean, it's the racing that racetrack provides is it's a driver's track. I think it's a track where you can be a little forgiving if you miss a setup a little bit.
It's got to be the banking, too, that really helps.
That's the most deceiving thing about that track.
That banking is insane.
Well, I've got Nina called me on the radio, and she says, why don't you bring that drone down here between 1 and 2?
Yeah. I was like, you got to put it right there.
Yeah, put it right there. Did I do that?
Yeah, you did it perfectly.
How high off the ground were you?
He was eye level to me.
Yeah, and she's standing down in the racetrack, and I'm eye level with her. I would say foot and a half off the top bank.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait to see that footage.
Watching those guys come through there, and then I moved down where she was at and started getting them coming down the straightaway, coming into one.
So that's interesting when you're talking about that, because on the drive back, we were talking about your negative numbers when it came to setting up the drone.
Yes.
And how deceiving that track is.
It is.
In the sense that, when you drop down in there, you're way negative.
I've never, at the other racetrack we went at last year, I don't mind saying it, Willamette, when we did Willamette last year, the drone setup, when this new drone and the older ones, but this one especially, when you turn the battery on and connect with the controller, it automatically recognizes, using 10 or 12 GPS satellites, exactly where it's at and what altitude it is above sea level.
Mm-hmm.
And it sets 0 for its takeoff position. Because if this gets out there and you hit return to home, it's smart enough to know to come back and land in the same spot. It sets that position. It knows where it's at, gives me an altitude of 0. And the way I've got it set up at Southern Oregon is it's at waist high. I've got a nice table up there for it to land on. I'm landing on a table. And it's really nice. And it sets 0 altitude. So I noticed that like last week, I'm flying out there, and I kindly drop down. And now, it shows me I'm 30 feet high. Well, I'm not 30. I'm like 60. But I know that. But then the other day, I flew out there, and I go, geez, minus 10 feet? Am I
That's when he got
ground?
down in the bowl.
And I'm looking, where's the drone? Where's the drone? Is it under the ground? Where is it? But no, I was out there with Nina, parked up 1.5 off the turn, and I'm like at negative 19 feet. So it's really I have to be very careful up there because it's deceiving for me to know where I'm at. And, before, I did that the other night. I start down in turn 1, down at the racetrack, and